You could absolutely become a millionaire with an average job if you have the discipline to invest your money smartly. How do I do something where it's not just me? How do I do something where I can build a system, build a team, and we can grow something bigger?
Today, I want to get a little bit personal and ask you a question that's probably on everybody's mind.
Okay.
What kind of habits made you a millionaire?
What habits made me a millionaire? Wow. Okay, we're not holding back today, Nathan. Are we?
We're jumping right into it.
I guess. Well, the first thing would be working hard. I didn't have any sort of traditional business experience. I didn't grow up with any sort of financial education. All I knew was that I wanted to become financially successful. Growing up, my parents are immigrants from a state in India called Punjab. They always told me that the way to become successful is by becoming a doctor. Now, I wanted to become successful. I saw how hard my parents worked. My parents came to this country with very, very little. So they were always working. I saw the sacrifices and hardships that my grandparents had to go through. So I wanted to give back. I wanted to become financially successful. And they told me that the way you do that is by becoming a doctor. So I was like, okay, I will study hard in school. I'll bust my butt in school. And now I did have some tough times with that because English was my second language. But I was like, whatever, I'll work. And so I was studying. And I remember I used to have a talk with myself. This was in middle school. I used to have a talk with myself like, Jasprit, get your stuff together. No TV, no playing outside until you finish your homework.
Wow.
I used to tell myself this because I knew that if I did this is how I'd become successful. Then I started to get a little bit older and I realized that there are other things that you can do to become financially successful. I was going down this pre-med route for all the wrong reasons. And so I wanted to learn about financial education and I wanted to learn about entrepreneurship. The downfall was I had no idea how building a business worked. I had no idea what entrepreneurship was. I had no idea what financial education was. I had no idea what investing was. But what I did have was my work ethic. So I was like, you might be smarter than me. You might have more resources than me. You might have richer parents. You might have all these other things. But what you will not do is outwork me. That was the advantage that I had. And so I worked a lot in the beginning days especially. Like I worked countless hours because I knew that was my advantage. Because if you are smarter at building a business, if you know more about entrepreneurship than me, if you know more about investing than me, fine. You got that over me because whatever reason. But what you will not do is you will not outwork me. And that I have the advantage on. And I was willing to sacrifice holidays. I was willing to sacrifice weekends. I was willing to sacrifice my evenings. I was willing to sacrifice my sleep because that was the advantage that I had. So that's where it all started. Then as I started working more, I started to see a little bit of success. I started doing more things with my money the right way. But without that hard work, it would have been very hard for me to set myself up. Like when I was in college, obviously I was running my event planning company. I was going to school full time. And then I started investing in real estate because that was the bottom of the 2008 crash. So those were like the things that I was doing. And then during the second half of my college, so my junior year in college, I also got my real estate salesperson's license. So I became a real estate agent. I was 20 when I got my real estate salesperson's license. So then I started selling real estate for people when I was 20 years old. And so I was like, I don't have that traditional business education. I didn't go to business school. I didn't do that. So how do I learn? It's by doing. That was the only way that I was able to learn. Like anytime I had a business idea, I would try it. We had this t-shirt company. This was fun. A buddy of mine. So this is a summer. I was subleasing a house for the summer with a friend of mine because we were there for the summer. The dorms didn't allow you to stay there. And we had this idea. We're like, every organization on campus, the clubs on campus, every single organization buys t-shirts for their members. And these organizations are spending a lot of money to find these t-shirts. What if we could find the t-shirts at a cheaper price? Well, okay, so we started doing a little bit of research, and what we found was so I went to a big university and they had this one t-shirt apparel company on campus. And that was the go-to place for everybody, every organization to buy t-shirts, whether you're buying 10 t-shirts or 1,000 t-shirts for your members, you were going to go to this one place and they were going to sell you t-shirts. They would take 2 to 3 weeks, typically turnaround time, and they would charge you a lot of money. And so what we saw was this was an opportunity because we could go online. Back in the day, it was a site called ooshirts.com. I don't know if this still exists. There was OO Shirts, the T-shirt land, and there was one other. I forgot. Oh, there was a local T-shirt person that my friend knew. So we had these 3 suppliers that we found just through Google searches and one of his local connection. Mm-hmm. And so what we would do is we would go to all the local clubs on campus and say, hey, you guys are going to buy T-shirts for your members. We are students here at the university. How about you buy them through us? We will get you the exact same shirt in the same or faster turnaround time for a lower price. And so at first everyone's like, well, I don't really trust you. We've been going through this company for a long time. And so that was the toughest part, is kind of getting through that door of saying, trust us. We'll guarantee it. And so what we did was we would go through I think it was American Apparel, who was like no, it was not. It was Underground Apparel. I forgot what it's called, but there was the main company on campus. I don't think they're still in business anymore. But the main company on campus that everyone was getting their shirts from, we would see what they would charge, and we would charge $1 less because we were able to get them for like $3, $4, $5, something around there, dollars cheaper than what they were charging. And so we would see what that company was charging. We would charge about $1 less, and that margin was ours. So it's just like finding opportunities and trying it. It made us good money, decent money, because if an organization bought 200 shirts for their members, we made $300-400 right there. Just all we had to do was take the order, plug it into whichever manufacturer or supplier was giving it to us for the cheapest, and we would just deliver to them. Like it would be these big boxes coming to my dorm or my apartment, and then we would take these boxes and like walk down campus and give it to them. So it was just a matter of like being creative in the sense of working hard and like doing whatever it took. And it was that kind of whatever it took mentality that was that first step. That none of those things by itself made me a whole lot of money. Like they taught me a lot because I made a whole bunch of mistakes. I mean, that was like a business that did okay. Like we shut it down because we stopped caring about it. We did our orders, and then we were doing other things, but we did so many different things where it was like I just tried to learn. There's no other way that I can figure this out without just doing things. That was how I learned. And so it was that first kind of just working hard. The second thing I would say is the discipline. And I would say I'm kind of blessed that I have the ability to give myself the self-discipline of like doing whatever it takes. And I learned this at an early stage of my life because I used to be kind of chubby. My cousin, man, this guy, he used to make fun of me all the time for being fat. So like I used to love Indian sweets. Do you like Indian sweets? You like Indian food?
I actually just had some. I forget the brand of the candy, but just a few weeks ago, I actually had some, and I was like, "This is pretty good." Yeah.
So there's an Indian sweet, a yellow one called laddu, delicious, and there's a darker one called gulab jamun, also very delicious.
It might have been that one. Yeah.
So those two are really good. If you go to an Indian store or go to an Indian restaurant, get a laddu or gulab jamun or both of them. I used to love those when I was a kid. They're delicious, but I used to love them when I was a kid. My grandma, she lived with us. She used to make them all the time. So I was eating a lot of this, right? So my cousin, he used to always call me laddu and gulab jamun because they're like round sweets. That you're fat.
Eesh.
And so he would always say that to me. And I remember like this was around middle school time. And I was like, you know what? I'm done being fat. I don't want to be fat. So I made a commitment to myself that I wouldn't eat sweets. And for a number of years, I forget how long, but it was like a number of years, I only ate sweets once a year on my birthday. I did not eat candy on Halloween. I did not eat chocolates. I did not eat a single one. Like all of my family members, friends, they'd have these birthdays, they'd have cake, and I would always say no every time because I was able to tell myself, hey, no, I'm not going to do that. And I mean, it changed my physique. Then I started playing football. I started learning about the gym, started learning about working out, the things that I was never told about, because I was always told, hey, if you just become a doctor, you're going to magically be healthy. I don't know. But that was like that first mental discipline that I gave myself. But then it was also, I mean, it goes down into the business side, because then when I realized that, hey, I want to do this entrepreneurship thing, it takes time. You read business books, because like I didn't have a mentor. I was just reading books, and every book talks about how it takes time for your wealth to compound and grow. You have to start somewhere. And that didn't turn me off. We talk about building wealth, building long-term wealth, and every time in the comments, people are always like, oh, 10 years? 10 years to see my money compound? I don't want to do that. Right. I don't want to see my money compound over the long term. I want to see the returns next week. And I never really felt that way. I always kind of felt like, okay, like if it takes the long term to build wealth, I will do that. Like I'll do, if it takes a long time, I'll put in that work. Mm-hmm. And to me, like that was never a bad thing, that long term mentality. So I never really struggled with that. I think because I just had that discipline of understanding that, hey, small steps make a big difference over the long term, right? You keep putting in the baby steps. You put a little bit of money aside for your investments. You keep doing that. So then I had the discipline to understand that, whatever it is that I'm doing, I got to understand that I'm doing this for the long term. And that became especially useful when I'm starting businesses that I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm failing in them, or I'm turning them off. My first big business was that event planning company in college. Mm-hmm. But I hated the industry. I hated the event planning business. I hated the entertainment industry. I hated working with clubs. I don't drink. I don't smoke. So I don't like that industry. So now when I turned that off and I have to start all over, I had the discipline to understand, hey, this was a part of the process. Now, I didn't say like this is just a part of the process. I was upset. I was frustrated. Mm-hmm. But I knew that like this is something that I got to do. So then I started another one. I was selling real estate, and I knew that it was hard. I was like, you just got to keep doing it. You got to keep learning. When I was wholesaling real estate, like imagine this, for 4 months, so I invested $3,500 in a course to learn how to do it. Month number 1, 0 sales, 0 leads. Month number 2, I'm working my butt off, 0 sales. Month number 3, 0 sales. Wow. Month number 4, 0 sales.
A lot of people would have quit.
Yeah, but I kept going, and it wasn't until month number 5 that I made my first sale. And it was that I started making good, decent money after that. But again, it was that discipline that I had, that I was like, okay, I understand that it's going to take me time. And even building my future businesses, like I understood that, okay, I don't need to make the money today. It's going to take time. I got to let things build. I got to let them grow. I got to keep putting in the effort, right? I'm working hard in these things, but I had the discipline to do that. And then it was also the discipline with my finances, where like financially, like if we talk just strictly financially, I was blessed that I had the ability to do that. And I think it's because I had the ability to see long term. Now, imagine this for a second. Like I'm 17, 18, 19 years old. I got this party promotion, event planning company. My name is on like one of the biggest clubs on campus. They have this big flyer on the door talking about their college night, and I am the person to contact. Mm-hmm. Like people know who I am. I'm friends with like the DJs. So like it's kind of like, oh, the cool people. Now, I was never like that cool person. I was always a weirdo. The people that know me know that I'm a weirdo. But, it's just like that perception. And all of my, like, those friends in the entertainment company, in the entertainment business, all my DJ friends, all my party promoter friends, all these guys are blowing money on their clothes. I remember going to the mall with these guys, and, like they would spend $200-$300 on a belt. Wow. I was like, what the heck? Like, dude, I can get a belt from Walmart or Meijer for $7. You guys are spending $200-$300. Are you out of your mind? And like, I remember I would go to the mall with these guys, and they would spend so much money, and I wouldn't buy a single thing. I was like, no, I'm not spending money on this. They would have nice cars. I was driving a beat up car. It's like they were spending money just on the way they looked. But for me, I was like, no, I don't want to do that. Like I started learning about investing. And so I was like, I'd rather invest my money in these things called assets. And I told them about it. I was like, what? I bought my first rental property. And they're like, why would you want to do that? Like, it's like people don't get it. And so I had that long-term mindset of understanding, hey, I'm not working for today or tomorrow. I'm not just trying to look cool today. I'm trying to build this wealth. And most people don't understand what that means. They don't understand the possibilities of that. And even if they do, they want to see the instant gratification where, okay, yeah, I want to become wealthy. If you ask anybody, do you want to become wealthy? Everyone's going to say yes.
Right.
But who wants to actually put that sacrifice in, day out, week after week, month after month, year after year? After a certain point, it gets hard. One of my friends, I talk to him about this all the time. He says that, it's hard for me to do that because I can never see the light at the end of the tunnel. I need to see the light. Like, I need to know I do this, this, and this. What am I going to get out of it and when? They need to see the answer. And when you talk about financial investing, you don't have that answer. You might not get it. So you're taking your income today that you're working hard to earn. You're putting it aside towards your investments, hoping it's going to build you wealth, but you don't know when it's going to be. You don't know how long it's going to take, and you don't even know if it's going to happen. Mm-hmm. And for a lot of people, that's scary. But for me, that discipline, once I started learning about it and I started seeing the possibilities, it aligned with my goals. And that, I think, you have to know, what is your goal? What is your reason for wanting to succeed? And once you know that the process becomes a whole lot easier. Because for me, I wanted to become successful because I saw what my parents went through. I saw what my grandparents went through. I saw that hustle, and I wanted to give back to my family, and I wanted to take care of them. That way they could enjoy, all the sacrifices they made for me and my brother. So for me, like, I knew that. Now it's like, I want to take care of my parents. I want to take care of my wife. I want to take care of, like, these things are deep in me. Like, I want to take care of my people. Mm-hmm. And so I know why I want to do it. And because I know that, like, making the sacrifice is not that hard, because it's like, shoot, of course, like, I'd rather sacrifice what I drive, what I wear, and like the way I look for that. And it was funny. It's kind of a funny story. I was talking to somebody about this, is nowadays people just assume that I'm spending a lot of money because I'm Jaspreet Singh. We were out in Vegas, and I was talking to these guys. Like, they were like, "Oh wow, man! Like, that suit, that must be so expensive. How much did you pay for that? $3,000?" I was like, "No, man, I got it from J.C. Penney, the J. Ferrara rack, $135 top and bottom. What are you talking about?" And so it's like, man, people just assume. Like, nowadays, like, I don't even need to spend. Like, I can go and spend $15 on a watch. This is a nice watch. My wife got this for me. This is a Shinola rep in Detroit, but it's not a $20,000 watch. Mm-hmm. But I'll wear my other one. I got a $250 watch. I like watches though. I don't have a problem spending money on nice things. I have no problem with that. But I got a $250 watch. Love the watch. And people will like say, "Oh my God, dude, how much was that? Like 15 grand? 25 grand? Oh man, I paid $250. Right? What are you talking about?" And it's like, people just assume now. And so It's like, it's funny. I don't need to spend money for people to think that I have this nice things because, oh, you're just pretty thing. No, I'm not spending money like that. I'm spending money to buy real estate. I'm spending money to buy stocks. I'm spending money on my startups. Like, I'm spending money on things.
Just the things that
matter to me, right? And so it's that financial discipline in that sense. Now, I do want to give a little premise here. There's nothing wrong with spending money on nice things. Like, there's nothing wrong with spending money on luxuries, liabilities, things that lose you money. There's nothing wrong with that. Mm-hmm. I want you to have all the nice things. That's why you're working hard. Like, there are certain things that are nice to me that I really like, that I do splurge on. But you got to make sure you can afford it first, right? You want to go and buy a Beamer? Fine. I like Beamers. Buy a BMW, buy a Rolls Royce for all I care. I don't care. Just make sure you can afford it. And that's the key. And that for me, that was that realization that, oh my God, I can afford it, but I don't need it. And mm-hmm. Like, I'll tell you from BMW's perspective, because anytime I started making a little bit of money, the first thought that I had was, I need to buy a BMW. So when I was like 17, 18, 19, I'm starting to make a little bit of money. I was like, I'm going to buy a BMW. Back then, they didn't have a 2 Series. It was a 3 Series. And I remember I was 19. And I'm looking at my first real estate investment property. It was $8,000 that I bought it for, because this is the bottom of the 2008 crash, $8,000.
Wow.
And I was thinking about, okay, I want this 3 Series. And I remember, like, I was pulling up this 3 Series picture all the time, looking at this red 3 Series. I'm like, I'm going to buy this car. But then it came down to the decision of, should I buy a rental property? Should I buy this car? I decided to buy the rental property. Thankfully, my senses kicked in. And then I was like, okay, cool. Like I'll buy some real estate. Then I'll buy a 3 Series. And then I started doing wholesaling real estate. And I was telling you, right, I didn't close a deal for 4 months. I closed the deal then, and now I'm starting to make really good money. I think the first deal, I made 10 grand off of it. The second one, I made 7,500, and that was all both in 1 month. So I made $17,500 in 1 month, and I was like, okay, got to buy the car. All right,
Right.
now I earned it.
BMW
Got
time.
to buy BMW. So like I'm going to the BMW website, and I remember my uncle. They were at my family was at my house. We're talking about cars. I was like, yeah, I'm thinking about getting a new car. I was like, oh, which one? I was like, I'm thinking about the 3 Series, the BMW. I was like, oh, wow, nice. I was like, yeah, I might just buy it cash. Close a couple more deals. I'm going to buy this 3 Series. And I didn't. You know, it's like that urge kicked in, and then my senses kicked in. I was like, wait, no, what am I trying to do? Is this going to align with my goals? So that goes on and on and on. And then I started to see more wealth. I started to see more success. Like my business started to grow, my investment started to grow. And now I get to the point where like I can comfortably go out, buy the BMW 3 Series and the 2 Series came out. I mean, I can buy it with cash and it wouldn't even affect me.
Wow.
And then all of a sudden, my desire for the car kind of went, whoop. I don't even care. Because now it's like, wait, like 50 grand for a car? That's nothing. And all of a sudden, when you can afford it, the need to have it drops. And that is the weirdest thing, because when you can't afford something,
you want it really bad.
You want it.
Yeah.
And your desire for it is high. But when you can afford it, and it's like not that big of a deal financially, now all of a sudden it's like, oh, like I can look at the price tag and it's not a big deal, and it's just like whatever, then it's different. And that's what was like a big shock for me. It's like, wow, that financial discipline is hard when you can't afford it. But when you can afford it, it becomes like it's all baby steps, right? You start to build the discipline, and then you start to realize that, hey, once I got the money for it, I don't need to buy it. I don't even need to show it off, because like, I don't care. Like, I don't care what people think about me. I don't care if people think I'm broke or if people think I'm wealthy or if I'm rich. I don't care, because I know I'm okay. Like, I know that I'm okay financially. I'm working for more, but I know. And now it's like, it's weird because, you know, minority mindset has taken off and people know who I am to an extent. And people just assume, oh, Jaspreet must be spending a lot of money on his clothes. Right. No, man, this dress shirt right here, I got it from China, AliExpress, $14 included shipping.
That's a steal. That's
you know what I mean?
No,
like,
sure.
Like, no, I'm frugal with my money, but I also know that, hey, I can afford what I want, and there's nothing wrong with buying nice things as long as you can afford it. But for me, it's like, I need to know what's important to me, and I will splurge on that. I am not like, for me, I think I wear decent clothes. I wear okay clothes. I like watches. I would spend more money on watches. Shirts, yeah, I would spend more money on a shirt if it gave me nice value. But like, I'm not the type of person to go to the Gucci store and drop $2,000 at Gucci. I don't care. Name brands don't do it for me. I don't care about that. Like, I don't care about Gucci. I don't care about Louis Vuitton. To me, those clothes look ugly. Maybe I will think they look good one day. I don't know. But to me, they look ugly. I mean, it is what it is, right? And so I have no interest in going there and just dropping money on those clothes because I can. But I do like spending money on things like travel. And I also like flying comfortably. My family's from India. And I go to India. Before the pandemic, I used to go once or twice a year to visit my family. I'm pretty close with them over there. And I remember when I was a kid, or actually not a kid, like most of my life, I used to fly in economy class. And what's the longest flight you've been on, Nathan?
Probably cross country to like California.
Okay, so 5 hours.
Yeah, so about 5 hours,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Sitting 5 hours in economy is not comfortable. It's not. Mm-hmm. But now imagine sitting economy like that for 25 hours.
Yeah, I couldn't do it.
It's not easy. And so, yeah, you get a break. You might stop in somewhere for a few hours. But on the plane, you're on the plane for 20 hours. So you sit like this for 20 hours. And back in the day when I was a kid, they didn't have your TVs on every seat. You had the one TV in the center aisle. and they would play these black and white Indian movies. I was never a big fan of Indian movies. They'd play these Indian movies, which I never wanted to watch. I got no room for anything. When you sleep like this with like your neck in one direction. You got this, your neck is sore. The food is whatever. You got this smelly, snoring person that you don't know that's sitting next to you that keeps putting their head on your shoulder. I mean, it's like it's uncomfortable, man. And what's interesting is when you go on the plane, in the beginning part of the plane is the first class and the business seats, and you always walk through them. And I used to always walk through that like, wow, these guys, like, they got their own pod. Their seats recline. They turn into a bed. And they have like these like the air hostess, the people that are the attendants that are for your first class and business class, they're different than the economy class people. Like they're like, they address you by your name, and they say, how are you today, sir or ma'am? Can I take your coat for you? How about some orange juice? I'm pretty sure they give you champagne. I don't drink champagne. I don't drink, right? So like this is what they do. And I would always walk past and be like, how do people afford this? Because it's expensive. It costs like 3, 4, 5, 6 times more than an economy ticket. So it's a lot of money. And I remember the first time that I bought a business class ticket, I was like, wow, I mean, this is costing me, I think I paid 5 times more what it would have cost me if I just went economy. But I was like, I'm going to try this. I'm hitting the point where I think I'm comfortable enough. It's not going to affect me. Like, oh, let's do this. My mind was blown. I walk in, I got a jacket on, right? And they're like, Mr. Singh, can I take your coat from you? I was like, how do you know my name? I was like, okay. So I gave him my coat. I was like, where are you going to put it? I'm kind of skeptical. Like, where are you going to put my coat? Like, am I going to get this back? I gave her my coat. She's like, Mr. Singh, can I give you some? It was like a tray of like nuts, like almonds, peanuts. I was like, yeah, let me get the almonds. Let me get the cashews. Bring them all out. And they're warm.
Yeah.
Warmed.
Roasted,
and I was like,
yeah.
I was like, wow. Like this is, and then I'm sitting there on the plane, and now all of a sudden I can recline, lay down. And I'm like taking pictures. I was sending this to my brother. I was like, look at this, man. Like you like, it was crazy. and that was like when I started realizing, like, yeah, there's a time and place to spend money, but you got to know what's important to you. I know I went on a tangent with this, but like, you got to know what's important to you and be willing to spend on that, but just make sure you can afford it. I like watches, I like cars, I like certain things, but I also understand there's a time when I'm ready to buy it, then I will. I don't have that same desire or need to buy it. So like, that's why I have that discipline to say, not right now, I'm not ready, later. And I had to sacrifice vacations. My friends were going out traveling a lot. I didn't go. I sacrificed weekends. My friends were hanging out, watching the game, doing a whole bunch of things. I was working. I sacrificed holidays, holiday parties, this and that. I was working. So I made a lot of sacrifices, sacrificed, a lot of hangout times. When I was in law school, that's when I started building minority mindset and other things. I was going to law school full-time or part-time. I was working on my business full-time. So like law school all morning, business all evening, and then I went to, because I was starting to make YouTube videos and I had no idea what I was doing. I went to a night acting school on top of that to learn how to be good on camera. So it's like, whatever it takes to learn how to improve myself, which brings me then to number 3, working smart. Because I remember I started reading books. I think this was in Robert Kiyosaki's book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And he used to talk about this whole idea of working smart, not working hard. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then I read, The 4-Hour Work Week, I think it's called, by Tim Ferriss. And he talks about the same thing. I work smart, I don't work hard. Now, I don't agree with that. Okay, I'll get into that in just a second. But the whole idea of working smart. And I didn't know what that meant, because growing up, I was always told that the way you become successful is by working hard. And I was a hard worker. And I knew that I could outwork somebody. So I started talking about this. They start talking about this working smart idea. And I was like, what the heck is working smart? And I'm an entrepreneur. So like I was like doing different businesses. And that's where I started realizing what the difference of working smart versus working hard is. Because the issue that my early companies had was there was no scalability. It was me working, And the only way that I could get paid was if I worked harder. So I was doing this event planning company. I was hosting parties, doing all of that. And what I realized was if I didn't host a party, I'm not getting paid. If I'm not actively promoting, I'm not actively trying to get people to come to an event, I'm not actually doing something, I don't get paid. So it's not really a business. It's really just kind of like a job that I control. That's all it was. And so that's when I learned about this idea of scalability. How do you build something outside of you? So I went out and I invested in real estate for the first time. I bought that condo that I was telling you about. And this blew my mind. Like, let me put this in perspective. Like, I didn't grow up with financial education or entrepreneurship education. No one in my family is a real estate investor. I had no idea what investing was. I had no idea what real estate investing was. I did not know that you could buy real estate to rent out. I didn't know this was possible. I was never exposed to this. So I'm now 19, bought this condo out of foreclosure for $8,000, put in a little bit of work into it. No idea what I'm doing. But then I rented it out for $600 a month. Half of that was to pay the expenses, the HOA fee, my taxes, insurance, whatever. But half of that was now profit. And I remember sitting there, and I'm in college, and I was like, holy moly. Like, I am making a few $100s a month from this doing nothing. I don't have to host an event. I don't have to go out and like do things. I own this asset, and this asset is paying me because I own it. Holy cow. Like, I think I just figured it out. Working smart. Working smart now means, how do I leverage my skills, my capital, me, in a way where I can generate income without me physically having to do something? Because there's a cap to how much you can do. There's a cap to how much work you can put in a day. I mean, I was working my butt off. Like, some days I'm working 20 hours a day, sleeping 4 hours, working the other 20. And I was like, well, I always assumed that, the more, if I wanted to make more money, I have to work more. But what I didn't realize was I was working in the wrong direction. You have to work hard, you have to work smart, and you have to work in the right direction. If working hard was all it took to earn more money, then construction workers and laborers would be the highest paid people in America, but they're not. Mm-hmm. And that realization was now like, wow, if I'm working hard, I need to work hard in the right direction. What is the right direction? Well, I need to be working smart. So I need to be working hard into building something that's scalable. That way it's not just me physically working, and then I need to reinvest the capital into something with the cash, capital is money, into something that will continue to pay me without me physically having to do something. And that realization, first I was irritated because I was like, how come school never taught me this?
Absolutely.
I went through so much schooling. I was doing the right thing. At least I thought I was doing the right thing. But none of my teachers taught me this. And I was obviously irritated about that because I was like, this is so screwed up. Like I don't know if I'm doing the right thing. Like, when you're 19, 20, 21 trying to figure this out, you have no idea if you're doing this thing right or not. Because I know one saying, hey, Jaspreet, you're on the right track. I'm just reading books, and some of them are saying this is what you do. And everybody else in the world that I know is saying, dude, you're an idiot. Why would you not go to medical school? Why would you not be focusing on your studies? Your grades are what's going to determine your success. That's what the world is telling me. But these books and stuff is telling me something different. And I was dumb enough to follow the books, right?
Books, yeah.
But, I was kind of stubborn. But that's what I did. And that's when I started to realize, like, wow, like, I need to build something scalable. So then when I started to build different businesses, I was like, what can I do where I have the ability to now take a step back and bring on other people to help build a system, build a team? Like, I started thinking about like McDonald's, and I was like, wow, like the CEO of McDonald's can't know what's going on at every single store, right? Like they just can't. But they have this massive company. Oh, wow. Like, and then like the gears start turning. And I started thinking about Donald Trump. And this is before he was a politician. He was just a real estate person at the time. Mm-hmm. Because I thought about this because I started getting into real estate. And I was like, this guy Donald Trump, whoever he is, has thousands of tenants. There's no way he knows every single tenant. And because I was dealing with, my first tenant was kind of tough because I don't know what I was doing. I made the mistake of giving them my number My property management, remember, this is at the bottom of the 2008 crash. So like real estate companies were going bust everywhere. Nobody was going into real estate. Like it was a weird time. So I hired a property management company that was not a good one. They're no longer in business. Like it was just a big mess. So the property management company had no idea what was going on. The tenants had my number and they were like calling me all the time because they didn't know how to like do it. Like one time, they were like, oh, there's an electrical issue, Jaspreet. This place is going to go up in flames. I'm so scared. I freaked out. Called the electrician. He goes out there. Turns out a bulb went out. They just needed a new 75-cent bulb. So these were the things. I was getting calls for this. And I didn't know what was going on. And I'm like, man, this is so hard. Why is real estate investing so hard? And I kept telling myself, like, okay, there's people like Donald Trump out there. He has these thousands of tenants. There's no way that every single tenant has his cell phone number and is calling him and doing this. And so that's when I started learning, how do I now build scalable systems? So I had to fire that property management company, hired a new one, built new systems, started just changing the way I do things. But then I changed everything that I did because now it's all about the idea of scalability. How do I do something where it's not just me? How do I do something where I can build a system, build a team, and we can grow something bigger? So that was the next way of me thinking. And then going back to the discipline, it's anytime I started making money, I was using that money to invest. In the beginning, it was just real estate. Like I was making money for the sole purpose of buying rental properties. I was trying to buy properties as fast as possible because I realized that, hey, I can start generating cash flow from this. So I'd make money, take all that money and buy real estate. I wasn't buying cars. I was living very small. When the first time I made $100,000 in a year, I was in school, and I remember my housing cost was less. Let's just call it $400 a month, but it was less than $400 a month, which included my rent, included my gas, my electric, my cable, my internet, and my parking, and my water. Less than $400 a month. Why? Because I lived on the living room floor. I didn't even have a room. I had a mattress I kept in the hallway. Every night I would pull it out into the living room floor, put it down, unfold my sheets, put my sheets down, go to sleep, wake up, fold my sheets, put my pillow away, pick up the mattress, put it back in the hallway. I could have afforded a much nicer place. I'm making good money, but I didn't because that discipline of I know I need to work smart. I was taking this cash, putting as much of it to buy real estate or invest it back into my businesses. And that's what I was doing. I was trying to build the assets. So that's what I did to get me up to there. And then I learned about the fourth thing, which was... We're going to jump back into the video in just a second, but if you want to learn more about investing your money in the stock market, our team put together an amazing guide on how to start investing your money in the stock market that you can read for free when you sign up for a daily newsletter. This free guide will walk you through what is stock market investing, how you can get started with stock market investing, and different stock market investing strategies. So whether you're a brand new stock market investor or you're an experienced stock market investor, this free guide can help you take your stock market investing to the next level. And again, this is for stock market investors. This is not made for people who want to be stock market traders. This is for people who want to actually be investing their money for the long term. So if you want to read our free stock market investing guide and start getting a daily newsletter, I'll put the link to where you can download our free stock market investing guide in the description below. Investing in growth. This was tough because I kind of grew up with this, let's call it cheap mentality, not spending money. Indians by nature have this save mentality where, I'll kind of put it this way. I joke about this, but traditionally Indian people make $1 to spend 20 cents so they can save the other 80. Americans make $1 to spend $2 thanks to the help of credit cards, lines of credit. It's just a different culture of how to spend. Now, neither of them are right, but I kind of grew up with this save first mentality where it's like, don't spend money on anything unless you absolutely need it. Now that was fine, and then I started learning about assets, buying real estate. But then I started learning about this idea of investing in yourself, investing in growth. Like I was investing in real estate, but there really wasn't an investment in me. That was an investment in trying to build cash flow. But investing in growth meant investing in me, and that meant one, I was already reading books, but then I started taking it another step further. I started investing in seminars. I went through my wholesaling real estate seminar, and I bought the course there. I paid $3,500 for that. I started buying courses online, and then it started advancing into consulting and coaching and all that. But the first thing was really just investing in my own education. And that was hard because, like, nowadays there's a lot of crap classes out there. I'm pretty sure there was then too. But, like, they would say $1,000 and you buy this $1,000 course and you'll learn how to do X, Y, Z and it'll change your life. And sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad. Now, the good ones, what they do is they teach you how to do something. And you're learning from somebody who's already done it. So if it's a business, they'll teach you, let's say if it's how to use email to remarket your clients, to build a business, to do all that. Like, there are good classes out there that will teach you how to do that. But for me, that initial, like, do I really want to spend $1,000? That's a lot of money. And once I started doing it, I realized that, wow, I can spend $1,000 and make 5,000 back, or 10,000, or 50,000, because I started building my business. So, I went through business after business after business, but let's just focus on minority mindset now, because that was kind of like the culmination of seeing some real success and then ultimately building this. Minority mindset started off as a hobby. I was working on a sock company at the time, seeing success with that. But then when the patent got denied, that's when I was like, okay, maybe I should do minority mindset, because I'm really passionate about this. I wasn't making any money here, but I was like, this is cool. I enjoy this. So, I've invested in classes to teach us how to build Instagram followings, how do you market your social media, how to build your SEO, how to build a newsletter. And each one of these classes taught me something that we've been able to use to leverage to help grow our brand significantly larger. And then after that, it was getting into the coaching / consulting. So, like, you go through these, like, kind of phases. Books are like your lowest. You start learning about something. And then you can get into your classes, more in-depth something. But the downfall with the class is it's all on you. You got to do it all yourself, which is fine. But that's kind of the next stepping stone. After that, it goes into the coaching and consulting. And they get more progressively expensive along the way. Books are, $10 to $25. Classes are $50 to, $2,500, $3,500. And then your coaching, you're typically starting at like 25 grand and up. So, they go through different phases, and at each point in your life, one's going to make more sense. And for us, it was like, or for me rather, it's like understanding that, hey, if I spend this $10 on a book, I might be able to do something a whole lot bigger. And I started to see that because I was reading books, and I started getting exposed to this idea of investing and real estate and financial education and entrepreneurship. So I just started reading more books, and then I started taking classes. Nowadays, you got YouTube. Right. YouTube wasn't there the way it was 10 years ago. Like YouTube today is not YouTube 10 years ago. That's YouTube 10 years ago, it was there, but you were watching like prank phone calls. Like, that was YouTube.
That's true, yeah.
Nowadays, YouTube is, I can learn anything I want. So YouTube is decentralized education, which is amazing. I love that. But then, if you want to go more advanced into any topic, then you can look at the classes. Just make sure that it's a good one, because there's a lot of crap classes out there. People talking about, 6 steps to 100 grand a year in 6 weeks or less. Come on, man. Like, there's a bunch of crap out there. So just make sure that you're learning something specific, like you're learning how to do something to help grow your side hustle or your business, something very specific to that, not just some magic system to make money. And make sure you're learning from somebody who's actually done it. So that's the two things that you want to pay attention to. And then as you start to grow, getting into the coaching and consulting. I remember the first time we hired a consultant, it cost 25 grand. And I was like, dude, this is a lot of money. Like, what are we going to do? And our team was significantly smaller then. I was like, 25 grand is a lot of money. We had it. I mean, we could afford it, but I was like, this is a lot of money. And then we made that investment, and then that one actually did not do very well. We actually, I don't think we got our money back. But then the next one, we really started to see the return, and it's like, okay, wow, we're starting to get returns. Now we're spending hundreds of thousands a year on coaching, consulting, like people who help us with different parts, from SEO to like our YouTube channel, to just a bunch of different things. But investing in yourself, investing in that growth. And so, like, I've diagrammed this in previous videos. What I'm trying to do is increase our expenses. I'm trying to increase my expenses. And you're going to say, why would you want to try to increase the expenses? Well, the reason why I'm trying to increase the expenses is so we can increase the income. So spending money in a way that's going to help grow the pie. And you have to be willing to get out of that broke mindset, because a lot of people will say, I'm not going to spend $500 on this because then you're going to get rich and I'm going to get nothing. That's a broke mindset. You got to understand what is the value that you're getting. You have to look at what do you get, not just what does somebody else get. And, and that's where that growth mindset of understanding, okay, if I spend 500, what if I can make 5,000? But again, I'm going to caution you here, just don't go randomly start blindly throwing money into random classes and stuff online, because there's a lot of crap out there. Do your research. So just make sure you do that. But, it's understanding that, hey, if I invest in myself, I can see a return. What value do I get? And, this is not just in classes. It's across the board. So I have my real estate now. When I try to sell properties, I do it very differently than the way most people do. Because most people say, oh, I got to sell my home. You're a broker. Come look at my property. How much do you want as a commission? Or the broker says 6%. And then they'll say, can you do it for 4%? And then they try to negotiate and go down to 5%. So what happens here? You're trying to penny pinch. You're trying to tell the broker, you only get paid if you sell my property, but I don't want to pay you as much as you want. Well, what's your incentive now to sell the property? Not as much, because now you already know that you cut your commission to do this deal. And unless you're super desperate, your incentive is a little bit less. So what I do is, it's actually the opposite. I say, okay, how much you want? 6%? How about I pay you 7%? And if you can close within 30 days or you get us an above asking price offer, I'll throw you an extra bonus. Now what? Well, you're incentivized to sell quickly and bring me a good offer, a higher offer, because you know that you're going to make more money here than with your other deals. And then when now you have your list of clients, who do you think you're going to be more pressed to market? That person's deal who's trying to cut your commission, or me who's trying to up your commission, right? And so it's understanding that, hey, I'm not trying to penny pinch you. I'm trying to help you earn more money. Understanding, trying to build these win-win relationships where you can win together. And I started doing this because I saw the other side. When I was a real estate salesperson in college, I helped this couple look through, this story always just brings back the feelings. I helped this couple go through dozens of properties, so many properties. It took up so much time. And we're going through deal after deal after deal. We finally found a property that was within their price range. I think it was about $400,000 and some change. It was in a great area, beautiful home. They loved the home. They're ready to make an offer. And before I start working with any clients, I have to sign some paperwork. It tells you how much I'm going to get paid, how I get paid, and all of that. So it's all clear. It's all transparent. It goes down for them. They say, okay, Jaspreet, we're ready to make an offer. I was like, all right, let's do it. Nice. Let's get to this property for you. They're like, there's only one caveat. So what's that? They said, we don't think that you deserve the full commission. I said, what? They said, we want you to put half of your commission into the deal. You're a college kid. You're going to make 12 to 15 grand in commission on this property. Just take half of that, put it into the property. You don't need all that money right now. I was like, you serious? They're like, yeah. I was like, we went through all this and whatever. So I was like, no, I'm not doing that. You could go find somebody else to help you do the deal. Like, I'm a hardhead, right? Especially when I was younger, I was way more of a hardhead. But I was like, no, I'm not doing this. So I walked away. And the funny story. So they ended up not getting the house for whatever reason. They couldn't find someone. They were not able to close the deal. Why? Because they were so worried about what I was going to get that they completely forgot about what they were getting. The value that they were trying to get was this beautiful home. They spent months trying to find this property. They finally found it, but they were so focused on the pennies that they choose to ignore what they were going to get. So they were more focused on my pocket than their pocket. And then what's even more interesting is a couple months go by and the wife calls me. She goes, hi, Jaspreet, how are you? She goes, this is this person. I was like, I remember who they are. I was like, oh yeah, how are you? She was like, are you still working as a real estate agent? I'm like, yes. She's like, that deal didn't work out. Would you be able to help us find another property? I was like, you got to be kidding me. I was like, sorry, unfortunately, I'm super bogged down with clients right now. I can't do that. But, it's like, I was like, I don't know what to say. I was like, are you serious? I'm not doing this again.
Right.
But it's one of those things where when you're so worried about pinching pennies, you lose sight of the bigger picture. And that is building that growth mindset instead of being focused on that short-term broke mindset. And so many people have that broke mindset where it's like, if you just think a little bit bigger, if you stop focusing about everything else, just focus on the value that you get, buy based on value, not based on price. Now all of a sudden you open up the opportunity to build a bigger pie and think a whole lot bigger. So that's where you need to know how to work smart and then also be willing to invest in yourself. And the last thing that I want to talk about, I think that the thing that helped me probably the most was being willing to take risks. And this one's interesting because risk for me right now is much easier to understand and quantify because I think I've been around a little bit. I've started different businesses. I've seen success. I've invested my money. Like I know how to calculate risk and I know where the risk is. But when I was younger, I don't think I ever saw risk, but everybody else did. And like this whole idea of starting a business, it's risky. You're putting time away from school and doing things that you know can get you a high paying job. So I can do this thing, which may or may not work. That's risky. And everything that you do has risk. But when I was younger, I talk about me being a hardhead. I didn't ever saw the risk. All I saw was the opportunity. And so for me, I didn't think that I was taking risk. I just thought that I was doing what was normal, what made sense to me. But the thing that holds so many people back from doing anything, investing their money, starting a side hustle, starting a business, doing anything is what happens if I fail? What happens if this goes wrong? Is taking risk. But you have to just be willing to accept it. And there's no way for me to like convey this, like take risks. There's no way for me to convey that. You just have to be okay with it. And like I talk about like, when I was younger, every time I did something, people would say that I'm stupid. And those things that, I was doing when I was stupid are the things that set me up to see the success now. So like my stupid actions turned out to be pretty good. So now I kind of have this stupid test where if I want to do something and people don't say that it's stupid, it's probably not big enough because the majority of people, if they can wrap their heads around it, then I'm not thinking big enough. I got to think even bigger. So I have that stupid test that I'm following out where I hope that people are going to think that what I say is stupid because small-minded people just don't get it. And you have to, if you really want to go big, you have to be willing to take some sort of risk. And without risk, you don't have a reward, but it's now now I can say, how do you mitigate your risk? When I was younger, I never thought about risk. I never thought about mitigating risk. I just thought about doing. And as you do, then you start to learn. As you learn, you can naturally mitigate risk because the best way to mitigate risk is by learning. You can learn by, the education that I just talked about, investing in your growth, but you can also learn by doing. And you have to do both. But you have to be willing to try things. And that's what's hard. It's because you're doing something that's not normal, that's not comfortable, that people don't see. But you have to be willing to take that risk if you want to see any sort of success.
Now, do you think this is your way to becoming a millionaire? For a lot of people, you kind of mentioned those jobs before, average kind of workers, and working those jobs, working harder isn't going to make them kind of make more money. Is your way the only way to become a millionaire? Working hard, taking risks, is that the only way to do it? Or can you become a millionaire by having an average job and doing average things?
Well, absolutely. You could absolutely become a millionaire with an average job if you have the discipline to invest your money smartly. We talked about, made videos on the channel, talking about a janitor who retired with $8 million, talking about a parking lot attendant who retired a millionaire because they took a little bit of their money every time they got paid and they invested it, and they did that again and again and again and again and again. So, there's no one size fit all. There's multiple paths to get there. But the thing that I'm trying to get at is you have to take some sort of risk, because even them, they had to take their money, not spend it, not keep it in the bank, but take some sort of risk. In their case, both of them, they took this money and they invested it into the market. And because of that, they were able to see some success. Now, the level of risk that you take is going to depend on you. Some people can take more risks than others. Some people are going to be in a stage in their life where they can't take as much risk. If you have kids, you have a spouse that's relying on you, it's going to be harder for you to go out and drop everything and start a business right now. But you can position yourself in order to do that. And so you got to understand, where in your life are you? If you have a paid off house, your kids are taking care of themselves, you could take a lot more risk. And so, it's just like, where in that spectrum are you? If you're in college and you're watching this, you could take a lot of risk. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, where in that spectrum are you? And there's so many different places. But what I'm trying to get at is, you have to be willing to take some sort of risk. The risk that you take is going to depend on you and where you are. But no matter where you are, you can see more financial success. But if you say, oh, I'm broke, I can't take this risk, or I'm struggling financially, I can't take this risk, I'm going to disagree with that, because at that point, you can't afford not to take a risk. You can't afford not to try something else. You have to. You might have to start working harder. You might be working a full-time job, and then in the evenings, you're working on a side hustle, you're working on a side business. I know it's hard. I have been there. But you have to be willing to try something different if what you're doing is not working. The best way to mitigate risk is by learning. You can learn by books, by classes, and by doing. Go out, try something. You have to be willing to try something else, because if you keep doing what you've been doing and you're not happy with the results, then you got to try something different.
It starts with that mindset.
You know what I mean? That was a good episode of Guac Talk, Nathan. Great questions today, by the way.
Appreciate that, yeah.
If you want to see more of Nate, check out the Minority Mindset News channel. He's publishing videos every day, sometimes multiple times a day.
Yeah, a lot of the time.
On what's going on in the finance and business world. He will keep you up to date. So if you're trying to keep up to date on what's going on in the world, the finance and business side, make sure you go and subscribe to the Minority Mindset News channel. You are going to love it. His videos are awesome. This is Guaci. I am Jasprit Singh, and this was another episode of Guac Talk. It took me a solid 5 to 7 years from my first business in college to really know what it took to build something sustainable, to build something scalable, and to build a real business. And it took me those 10 years of learning and failing and trying to really learn how it worked before I could build something a whole lot bigger.